3:28 a.m.
Hello, this is damn. Maybe we can just like.
And here, your assistant.
Here's Nell, I guess.
This is my assistant, Nell.
You want to retry the intro? Hi everybody, this is my name is Reydan. This is Nell, my assistant, and we're going to be making Brazilian carrot cake. Now it doesn't look or taste quite like any of the German or American carrot cake you might be used to, but this is a kind of Brazilian take on it, and we're going to be getting into the history of it as well as the history of Brazilian coffee. Throughout this series, we might be trying to do the same with other foods from Brazil as well as other cultures and regions across the world. First off, carrots are washed, and with these, you're just gonna, first thing you're gonna do, would you like to just cut off the ends of them? And then you're just gonna chop these into kind of like, I don't know, thumb width pieces. They can be pretty thick pieces, they can be like bigger pieces. Stupid. First, before you cut it, you have to peel them because you don't want this in your carrot cake. But you can still chop off the ends and then get to peeling. And then from there, we can start, while those are getting peeled and chopped, we can start on the wet ingredients. This cake, you're not going to make it in a blender, you're not going to make it in a mixer, you're actually going to be making it in a blender. So we're going to get started with the wet items. Damn. We're going to put 4 eggs, some of this canola oil, put 3/4 of a cup of canola oil. We're going to put 4 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So I'm going to start off with the eggs. The thing that my grandma always tells me when I'm making stuff with eggs is to crack it into a separate bowl first, so that way you don't get egg bits inside your blender and then have to try and fish it out with a blade right there. So, yes. So just take a second. You just want to make sure you clean up when you're done with everything, because we don't want a messy kitchen. So if you want to do a cook, we don't want to do messy shit.
Sanitary.
I don't think I can say that. So we got our eggs. We're going to pour this into the blender. And then next, we are going to put the oil. So 3/4 of a cup of canola oil. Half a cup. I'm dripping oil everywhere. We have our oil, we have our eggs, and then we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. 2 teaspoons. So now we have all the wet ingredients in there. The last thing is just going to be the carrots. When you pour it, or when you blend it, you're going to want to blend it to as fine as you can. Take the extra time, just puree it, just because there's actually not going to be any carrot bits in the cake. So if you don't like chunks of carrots in your carrot cake, this is a great recipe because you don't have any at all. So the history of carrot cake, real quick, is not super, I couldn't find anything really definitive on how Brazilian carrot cake kind of morphed from German carrot cake, or if it even came from German carrot cake. What I was able to find is that it kind of gained popularity in the 50s, in the 60s, when Brazil started to kind of open up and become more of a global power in terms of influence in the world. And with that came globalization and the globalization of food and cultures, and cookbooks and cooking recipes were all exported and imported, and one of those is carrot cake. And around that time is when you see this big influx of carrot cake recipes, and when you see it's kind of Brazil's Betty Crocker. It's called prima donna, and so she has a bunch of recipes, and you can find kits, or if you go to the store to get what are they called, cake mix? Yeah, the brand over there instead of Betty Crocker's. We're going to put these carrots in. This is going to go on, blend. And if you guys want to check how it's coming along, consistency. You're just gonna grab your spatula. And kinda, if you still have chunks on there, it means it still needs to be going for a little bit. But if it looks grainy, yeah.
Grainy.
So yeah, if it still looks like that, you still see carrot chunks. Keep blending. If you guys are interested in how to say this in Portuguese, it's bolo de cenoura. Bolo is cake, cenoura is carrots. So that looks about right. Like, it's totally orange now. Yeah, that's closer to the consistency that you want. Once it's totally orange, you can't really see any chunks really. Like obviously it's gonna be like a little lumpy because it's carrots, but it's not gonna be like big chunks of carrot. So this is gonna go off to the side for now while we get the dry ingredients ready. So for the dry ingredients, we're gonna be using flour, just all-purpose flour, just granulated sugar, cornstarch, any kind of cornstarch, baking powder, not baking soda, baking powder. Yes, so we're just gonna get those ready. Flour. We're going to be doing, so 1.5 cups of flour. Cornstarch. So 1.5 cups of flour. A tablespoon of cornstarch. Pat it down using your fingers. A tablespoon of baking powder. And it's also 1.5 cups of sugar. And so now that we have all our dry ingredients in the bowl, we're just going to take a whisk and just kind of like mix them together, so they're all incorporated into each other before we put in our wet ingredients. Let's do it when you're making like pasta, but we're not making pasta, so it's just kind of for fun. So now that that's all in there, now we're just gonna take this and we're gonna pour it in. And if you want to use the spatula, you can just scoop out as much as you can. Once everything's in there, you're just gonna mix it all together just with the spatula until it kind of comes together and it's all one consistency. So if you want to see what it looks like when we're mixing it, and I'll show you guys what it looks like once it's all incorporated. This is what it's gonna look like while we're mixing it. And you want to just kind of make sure you scrape the bottom as well, just because it's usually like a little clump of flour or something that you might have forgotten. And then when you're pouring it out, you'll have this like kind of clump there. So this is about what it should look like when you guys are done. Kind of fine, like texture, like a little soupy.
Soup.
I don't know if it's necessary, but I feel like I have to do. So the way that my grandma makes it, so, or Portuguese say, the word is avó for grandma and avô for grandpa. My avó, the way she does it, she takes just like, she'll pour in just a little bit of this canola oil, just like a touch, like that much, just a short pour, and then you're gonna spread it around with just a paper towel. And this is the important part, because I tried doing this the first time, I didn't spread it with the paper towel, and it just like got like all chunky and mucky, and it's gross. Once that's all evenly distributed, you're gonna take flour and you're gonna just like put a little bit, just like a handful or so. You take a little bit and you're just gonna kind of sprinkle it in there, like that. And then to evenly distribute it, you're just gonna kind of tap it. It's not evenly distributed. Shit. Oh, I might have put too much. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, two. Let's try this again. A little bit of oil, so a little bit of sugar. Damn, flour.
Yeah.
So it should be like a thin, very thin sheet of flour. Like. Also, it's a good thing. And then from there, you're just gonna pour it all in. Pour it in. Ooh, pretty good. So for the final part, in this case we made two because we hope two people will come by. This is a lot of cake for just 3 people. We're gonna put these in at 350 for 45 minutes, and make sure when you take them out you have oven mitts so you won't burn yourself. So these are gonna go in 45 minutes. It should be all good.
Yay!
Yeah.
So now we're gonna add the milk. We're making the sauce, the chocolate sauce for the cake.
So 100 milliliters of milk. If you don't have a glass measuring cup that has milliliters at the moment, so 6 2/3, just guesstimate 2/3 of, or no, if it double 6 2/3, it's like what, 13 1/3? Yeah, 13 1/3 tablespoons of milk.
A little editorial note here. I'm not sure exactly what in the world Hayden was saying right here, so I decided to come in to kind of clarify a little bit because I'm not going to edit subtitles over that. In the video, they're making 2. So whatever the original recipe calls for, they're doubling it so that they can make 2 cakes and 2 batches of the chocolate sauce to cover the cake. And so I'm not sure exactly what measurements he's using there, but the original recipe calls for 200 milliliters of milk. And I believe we tried converting that into cups. And so that's what he's trying to do here. He's just putting it into cups and then he's doubling it. So for 1 is 200 milliliters of milk. For 2, it's 400 milliliters of milk. There, that's it.
And then we're going to add 6 tablespoons of sugar. And then one thing that will help is just like adding all your ingredients into the saucepan off the heat, and then you can just put it on the heat and mix it.
And then this is the amount needed for 1 cake. For us, since we have 2 cakes, we gotta do it twice.
And then now we're going to add the Nesquik and 6 tablespoons of this one.
Sweet.
And like you might think that this is like the chocolate sauce really balances out the cake.
I like moisture.
Yeah. And we're gonna be adding half a teaspoon. So we're just gonna add a tiny sliver of butter. Look at that.
There you go. All right, now we can put it back on heat. I'm gonna put it like on medium heats, like 3 or 4, and then just kind of mix it up. And also, when you bring the cakes out after they've been baking, make sure that when it cools down a little bit, give it like, I don't know, 5 minutes. You're gonna stab just the holes, or just with a knife, just stab it real quick across the surface of it. So that way, when you pour the chocolate sauce over it, it actually seeps into the cake and helps moisten it. And then you're gonna know when it's ready as soon as you start seeing like bubbling. When it starts to boil and it gets a little thick, that's when you're gonna take it off the heat.
And you want the heat not at medium, but a little lower, just because you really want the sauce to like slowly get to where you want it to be.
A few moments later. 20 minutes later. 6 hours later. Eventually.
I want to make sure there's no chunks.
No chunks.
No chunks. Did you ever watch The Goonies? I heard "Party Like a Rockstar" again for the first time in years. The song is so good. Party like a rock. Party like a rockstar.
What is this to be?
Yay!
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.
Hi, one last editorial note. We forgot to take a video of the cake coming out of the oven and putting the chocolate sauce and doing the finishing touches on it all. I don't have any footage of that, but our cook Hayden, gave us this picture right here to use as reference. There it is. That's what it looks like when it's done, when you put the chocolate sauce on. That's it. That's all I got.
Thanks for coming and watching Porcupine Baking Hour. If you guys have anything else you guys want us to make, or you guys want to come on the show, let us know with recipes that are important to you, and then we can get the whole historical background and everything on it. So, have a good one.